Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is not that far away, just under 2 weeks, and we've just got big news that shows us what is coming after release. We have the KCD2 roadmap. So I thought today I'd quickly go over what's in this roadmap, try and theorize what's coming, what's included in some of these DLC packs we're getting, and so on. So let's jump right in. So starting with the free updates. Between March and June, we will get a bunch of free updates to KCD2, including a barber feature, hardcore mode, and horse racing. Now the barber feature was added into KCD1 eventually as well. You just went to this person, you could change different hairstyles, different beards. So I'm sure it'll work largely the same. There might even be more hairstyles and facial hair features in this game, just because Warhorse have already proved that KCD2 has way more in it than the first game, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot more options for how Henry looks in the barber. Then we've got hardcore mode, which had you, at least in the first game, choose from a range of negative perks to start off with. You had no fast travel, you couldn't see your character on the map, so you can't know where you are at all times without sort of working it out the traditional way with a map. And the game was overall harder in terms of combat and perks, the HUD was limited, and the prices at merchants, etc. were higher. I know a lot of people planned on playing KCD2 immediately in hardcore, so I think there's a little bit of disappointment that it's going to be coming later and it won't be with the full release of the game on February 4th, but it is coming. It'll be very soon after release. I probably will do a hardcore playthrough at some point, give it a go. I didn't really do it in the first game, but I get the feeling I might try it with the second. And then the third one is horse racing. This is just going to be your standard sort of RPG. You'll come across someone that wants to race you on horseback. It'll be a little more in depth because you'll have various perks and skills to do with horsemanship that you either would have leveled or not leveled, which obviously determine how well you do in these races. I'm sure there'll be some kind of betting mechanic where you can earn more gold or whatever from winning these races. There might even be multiple horses, multiple combatants in these races, who knows, but a pretty cool feature to come to the game nonetheless for free. And in fact, all these free updates are stuff that you would normally expect to be in release, given that they're in the first game, even if they were added later in the first game. So I was a little surprised to see them not immediately there, but it's absolutely fine. They're coming as free updates soon after release, so it's not too much of a bother.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Then we have the three big ones, the 3 DLCs included with the expansion pass. So if you have the expansion pass because you got the gold edition of the game or even the collector's edition, then you'll have the expansion pass and it will come with these 3 DLCs that are coming later in the year. The first one is Brushes with Death, which is where Henry will help a mysterious artist with an enigmatic past. Perhaps people from his past life are after him, maybe people don't like his art, who knows, but it looks pretty cool. It might have some sort of detective crime solving mystery mechanics to it. There was a bit of crime solving in the first game where you had to look for clues in certain things and certain quest lines, so I'm very interested to see if it works similar to that. Personally, I don't recognize the artist. If he's like modeled after a real life artist from history, I'm not sure. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below if you think that he's someone from history or whether it's a fictional character made up for the game. The second DLC is Legacy of the Forge, which will be purely focused on blacksmithing, which is obviously a new feature in KCD2 and will have Henry restore the Kuttenberg Forge and become a master blacksmith. Again, this is my most anticipated feature of KCD2. Blacksmithing, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be tons of uses out of it. So a whole DLC dedicated to this is actually really cool. I can't wait to try this out. I'm wondering, because it says restore Kuttenberg Forge, if there's some kind of build mechanic. There was a DLC that allowed you to bring a village back to life in the first game and you had to put tons of money into it and build various things. So it's not unheard of for Warhorse to try these kind of things out. So maybe this is that, but on a much smaller scale. Who knows? But very excited for this nonetheless because it's blacksmithing and I really want to do blacksmithing. And the third DLC is Mysteria Iglesia. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Apologies if I've messed that completely. Now, this DLC might seem familiar to some KCD1 fans because it will have you go into a monastery. So if you enjoyed doing that in the first game, don't worry, you're going to get the opportunity to do it in the second game through a DLC. This time Henry will go to Sedlet's monastery and it is to stop the spread of a deadly illness. Now, I would not be surprised if a lot of the monastery features from the first game make it into this DLC, like role-playing a monk, having a curfew, having to do tasks throughout the day, meeting for prayers, etc. So interested to see what this one's about. My initial thought, stupidly, was the Black Plague might be the deadly illness, but that happened in the 1350s, so well before the time of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So it's not that. I'm not sure what kind of deadly deadly illness it is, whether it's historical, whether it's going to be fictional. You know, was there a deadly illness outbreak at that time in history, or is this going to be sort of a very smaller scale fictional case? I'm not entirely sure, but it looks pretty interesting given that it's set in a monastery. Again, that quest line in the monastery in the first game was actually a lot of people's favorites. Personally, I liked the idea of it, but I wasn't huge on sort of living as a monk and role-playing as a monk. I kind of just wanted to get back to the action and adventuring around the countryside, but that's just me. I know a lot of people enjoyed the monastery, so if you did, don't worry, you're going to get that in the second game with this DLC. And that's basically all the DLCs. That's the entire roadmap covered up, but I just want to quickly say the first game had quite a bit of DLC to it, although some of it was a bit of a mixed bag. You had a woman's lot, band of brothers, and the amorous adventures of bold Sir Hans Capon, and then you had a few smaller DLCs. Like I had said, you had the one where you built a village, you had treasures of the past, that kind of thing. I'll be interested to see whether Warhorse have taken on the criticisms of the DLCs from the first game and strive to make a better experience and make those DLCs more worthwhile this time around for a lot of people. I personally didn't mind the DLCs from the first game, but I know a lot of people were not fond of some of them, especially if you look at the Steam reviews. A Woman's Lot is mostly negative. I think the only largely popular one is Band of Brothers, because that was more combat, more scenarios where you got into slightly bigger battles and skirmishes. But even then, the criticism there was it's too short. So I'm very interested to see how they do with the DLCs this time around, whether they're going to be significantly longer than the first game, whether they're going to be more interesting, are they going to have deeper mechanics and features. I imagine they will be a lot better than the first game's DLCs, just because the second game already looks so much better than the first game. It's way deeper in its systems, it's way more polished, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 very much looks like the game that Warhorse wanted Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 to be. So I'm sure that will leak over into the DLCs. There'll probably be a lot more to them, and it's just more Kingdom Come content, so how could you say no? Also, just want to quickly mention that Cone Carnage is actually going to be doing a live stream on the 23rd of January with the devs, and is going to be playing the first 3 hours of the game. So if you don't mind getting a little bit spoiled, then I'd absolutely recommend going and watching this live stream. It's going to go over the first 3 hours of the game. You're going to see a lot more open-ended content as opposed to some of these videos where we're going over preview content and first impressions. There's obviously NDAs going around, so YouTubers and creators and stuff can't talk about everything, whereas this first 3 hours is probably going to have a lot more info and questions answered to a certain degree anyway. And it'll just be nice to see how the gameplay actually runs uninterrupted. We've obviously had a few dev live streams in the past, and they've been great to sort of get a vibe of how the game is uninterrupted, unedited sort of thing. So this first 3 hours of the game being live streamed is going to be really interesting to get an insight onto how the game is actually going to start and how it roughly plays. But that's basically all for this one. So let me know in the comments down below what you think of the roadmap. What DLC are you most excited for? Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 content. We're going to be doing a lot more content on this game leading up to release and once the game releases. Become a member today if you want to support me in another way. You get early access videos and live streams. And thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!